You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all the news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, DJ.
And before the podcast tonight, I found out that Peter H. is Emmanuel Yarborough's biggest fan.
Yeah, I've been watching some old Pride tapes on the Fight Pass there, and he was a big boy.
Yeah, I think he maxed out at around 600, 700 pounds.
Jeez. It's amazing how far the sport has come when the dark ages of UFC, and there's one interesting thing on that same show where they're saying that Bas Rutten was going to fight Couture for the heavyweight title, and Couture forfeited. Some stuff you kind of remember but don't remember, and then when you see it again on watching these, the old school shows, it's like, oh yeah, that was supposed to happen, right? I totally just, it just kind of got lost in other facts you have in your head about mixed martial arts.
Right.
But, Stevie, we've got UFC and Bellator to talk about this week, and we have to preview this weekend's UFC, and we've got news, and let's just say, before we talk about Bellator and UFC, I do want to bring one news note right to the top of the show. Chuck Liddell is talking about making a return.
After 8 years of retirement and losing 5 of his last 6 fights, I believe all 5 of those by knockout, he's talking about coming back and wants to fight Tito Ortiz or John Jones. No, no, and no.
I heard the Ortiz. I have not heard the Jones one yet, but that's just ridiculous. If it's Ortiz, there's no seniors division because, these guys should not be fighting. If it's Jones, where are you going to have this fight? A reservation?
Well, apparently Liddell said, come to New Mexico, or I'll come to New Mexico and whoop your ass, since he trains there in Albuquerque. And I replied to a tweet about it, and I said, you might as well go to Old Mexico, because that's the only place that'll sanction it.
Well, you can always do, Europe wouldn't really be a good idea.
Japan, you might get away with that.
Russia, maybe? I don't think there's a real commission in Russia.
Japan or Russia would be the only 2 places you could really even try to have that fight.
Yeah. Maybe a New Year's Eve show, I don't know. I don't like it. It stinks 8 ways from Sunday, and
It makes no sense for a man of his intelligence, and I'm being dead serious about this, because Chuck Liddell was an accountant. He's got a very analytical brain. This is not an ignorant man in any way, shape, or form. That he's talking about fighting again at his age is just monumentally unbelievable. He can't think that he is capable of being competitive at this age, at this long off. In his prime, was he one of the greats? Yes. Was he definitely one of the best light heavyweights ever? Yes. Was he one of the most fun to watch? Sure. He's one of the reasons that very early on I got into UFC. No question about it. The Iceman Chuck Liddell was a huge draw in the UFC 50s, 60s, 70s eras of pay-per-views, back before they even hit the magic 100. So, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve all the accolades in the world, but when you lost as many fights as you lost in a row, or 5 out of 6, either way you want to look at it, but, it was I believe it was Rashad, Shogun, and Rich in a row. He beat Vanderlei by decision, but he also lost to Jardine and Rampage. So 5 out of those 6. And by that last one, the Rich Franklin one, he was actually winning the first round of that fight, and then he got touched once by Franklin with a few seconds left to go on the end of that
Yeah.
round, and you could see that his chin was totally gone. And even Dana White pulled him aside after that fight and was like, bro, I love you. You can't fight anymore. It's not good for your health. You can't keep getting concussions like that. You are getting concussed way too easily. You can't take these punches anymore. You need to sit down and do something else. And now, 8 years later, 8 years after they told him sit down, do something else, 8 years after that, he's thinking of coming back. No!
There's a commission out there that, they said they would have no problem licensing Liddell if he passes advanced medical testing. I worry about that, because if he is actually commissioned, if there's a commission that will license him and he passes their advanced medical testing, what medical testing are we talking about here? Like, what does it say for the state of the medical testing? Is it like 1 + 1 is 2? I mean, what kind of tests are we talking about here? Because some of these cognitive tests that are out there, I mean...
Okay, I gotta interrupt you at some point and say this, because I don't even want to say it, but it needs to be said.
Yeah.
Everything you were talking about was the same arguments that were made for Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie, and that fight got sanctioned, and that fight happened.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I hate to use that example, but yeah, I can see where you're going with that, yeah.
So, if you're saying that the testing is an issue, just go to Texas.
Well, isn't that the Kimbo and Dada 5000 or 3000, whatever his name was?
That's also where that fight took place, yes, it was that same card.
Jesus. He had a heart attack in the cage, yeah, okay. Anyways, let's move on from a knockout artist to the current day knockout artist, Ryan Darth Bader.
Ooh, yeah. They don't call him Darth Bader for nothing. That left hand was like he used the force on King Mo to put him on the ground.
The best way to describe it, I've had a Tim Hortons order longer than this fight.
When they say...
By the time I got to the window, the fight was over.
When they say, which highlights are we going to show from this fight? There's no need to say which, because the entire fight is the length of a replay clip.
It's kind of ridiculous that... I'm not saying King Mo shouldn't be in this fight. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that after this fight, he's going to middleweight.
Yeah, he immediately announced that he's dropping down not 1 but 2 weight classes, because he's going from the heavyweight tournament to fighting at middleweight. But you know what? I understand why up till now that was not even a consideration, because this is a man, you have to remember, he has won a heavyweight Grand Prix. He is a former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. It's not like he hasn't been successful at light heavyweight and heavyweight. But clearly, that punch from Ryan Bader changed his mind about a few things.
The game plan was throw a punch, I guess, see what happens. That worked. Beltran stepped in after some quick punches, and I mean, it's right back to a training camp, and now he's got a much, I hate to say it, tougher opponent, because he's going from King Mo to Matt Mitrione. But, I mean, I think the Mitrione fight will last longer than 15 seconds. Maybe I'm wrong.
As one of the Maniacs noted in one of my articles, Mitrione is the only true heavyweight left in the tournament at this point. Because Bader is a light heavyweight, fighting at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Chael Sonnen was best at middleweight, and he's fighting in this heavyweight tournament. And Fedor, God bless him, was always a small heavyweight.
Yes, yeah. Okay, I can see that point then, yeah. Jeez, we're talking about Mitrione and Bader, which could be fun.
And they're friends, too, which makes it really intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that argument on this show lots of times where, I don't want to fight Buddy because he's in my fight camp. He's my brother. I'm not going to fight him. Well, these guys don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It was a bracketed tournament, and tough luck.
Mm-hmm. They'll put friendship aside for a paycheck.
And that'd be a hell of a paycheck, too.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, the other side of that bracket, Fedor and Sonnen, we're going to have that fight, Stevie, and, I mean, do you think we're actually going to have that fight, or do you think it'll be scrapped like so many fights in the past?
No, I don't see any way that fight doesn't happen. I think they have to find a venue, and they have to promote the heck out of it, but I don't think that's a problem. I think that show probably ends up at the Staples Center or Madison Square Garden, one or the other.
If it was near you, would you? If it was within driving distance, would you go?
Of course.
Yeah. Now, I hate to think, but can you imagine what tickets would cost for that, though?
I have no idea. I would just be credentialed.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the fan appeal is there for the Grand Prix, and Scott Coker even said that he's looking at more tournaments in 2019. So, maybe bring back Bjorn? I don't know.
No, I mean, they're doing tournaments a completely different way than Bjorn did. Bjorn did them, like, all in 1 month, week after week after week, and that was too much for some of those fighters to have that many fights in that short amount of time, which is why we had lots of problems. But the way Coker is doing it is he's spreading it out months apart over a whole year. And especially if you're going to do something like a heavyweight Grand Prix, that is the right way to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the way the tournament is shaping up. I agree. I want to know where this fight's going to happen. I want to get more details on this, and I know they're keeping it close to the chest right now, but we'll see what happens there down the road. But we should move on to the co-main event, and this one was how do I say this? I'm not going to say boring. I'm going to say I expected more from one of the fighters. Can you guess who I'm talking about?
Paul Semtex Daly?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had his moment in the first round because you could see that John Fitch got rocked. He caught him with a really clean shot, and then a little bit later he landed an uppercut that would have put most guys down, but John Fitch took it.
Oh, Fitch is tough as hell.
Yeah, sometimes I think he might be too tough for his own good, but at least in this case it worked out because he survived the round, which he had won up to that point. I would argue that maybe Daly stole the round by hurting Fitch badly in the last minute of the first round, but he had been out-wrestling him through the round to that point. And then in the second and third round, once he put Daly on the canvas, Daly was not getting back up, and the referee was not inclined to stand him up because Fitch was staying just busy enough on the ground. He was passing guard, he was throwing punches to the head, he was taking mount, he was doing all the things to stay active on the ground and continue the fight and keep the fight on the ground. So the referee was very slow to stand it up, and Daly in the third round was clearly getting frustrated by this, and for whatever reason, I will never fathom this, John McCarthy and Mauro Ranallo were like, let's take a listen in to the camera and hear what he's saying right now. And they go to the camera, and there's silence. I know it's not silent at the Shark Tank in San Jose, but it's silent on TV. It's like, oh dear, he said something that shouldn't have aired on television. And then the volume cut back in, and you could hear him saying, oh, you're really going to win fans with this one. You're really going to impress people. Boo! Boo! He was imitating the crowd booing the fight. And then he said something else, and it immediately got cut out again. It was like, okay, there's clearly a string of syllables here that are very unflattering to Mr. Fitch. But the thing is, Daly was getting mounted and punched, and that was all he could do was, pardon my French, talk shit. He couldn't get him off of him. He couldn't get up. This is my quintessential argument when we talk about Ben Askren and we talk about any other wrestler out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get up, it's not the fault of the guy who took you down. If you don't have a strategy to get back to your feet once you're taken down, if you can't figure out a way to change your posture or push off the cage or wall walk or go for a submission to make the guy give up the mount and then sweep, you've got to come up with something. You've got to have a plan because there's a good possibility in any fight you could be taken to the ground whether you're facing a wrestler or not. So you have to know what you're going to do when you get there. And if you don't have an answer for that, you cannot blame the wrestler. It is not the wrestler's fault because he took you down.
I would rather watch John Fitch over Ben Askren any day of the week, but the thing is, I think Askren reveled in the fact to make the fight look as boring as possible. At least Fitch makes it entertaining to the point where, I wasn't.
He was actually going for the finish. Like, there were times he had the mount and was repeatedly punching Daly in the head to the point that the referee was looking in like, you gotta move, you gotta do something.
It was like, it was almost like watching, I've been accused of thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. You could almost see the wheels turning with Fitch, like, how am I going to get him to submit? Like, if I do this, will this happen? You could almost see it move for move what he's trying to do.
Right, like if I pass the guard, is he going to try to shrimp? And then if he does, will I get the arm? If I go back to the full guard and I start raining down punches, will he try to push me off? Will he reach an arm out? Will I grab it and swing the leg over? You could see the wheels turning.
Exactly. It wasn't a lay and pray situation.
No, he was working. And that's why it didn't get stood up, because he was working.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, Daly, doesn't
Daly
want
was
to be
unhappy before the fight, so how do you think he feels now?
How do you like me now? Exactly. Bellator wants him back. What do you do with him if you're Bellator? I mean, if you do get him back, what? He's not going to UFC.
No, never.
He's not going,
Well, he said he's only got a year left in the sport when I interviewed him anyway, so if he's only got a year left, he might as well ride it out with Bellator and get a couple more fights.
Yeah, but he's not fighting for the title, that's for damn sure.
Well, if they want to make it fun, they can just give him a guy who will stand and bang with him.
James Terry.
Somebody like that, yes.
I could see that. We'll talk about Terry in a moment. Let's move on to Aaron Pico and Lee Morrison.
This, I think, goes down as the first time I've seen anybody take a body punch that A, looked like an uppercut in execution, and more importantly, B, hit the guy so hard that he rolled backwards uncontrollably. When Lee Morrison got hit with this uppercut body punch, he just went flying backwards, and he was already out of the fight before Pico could even rush over to attack and finish him.
It was cringeworthy.
Morrison got hit with the body punch of all body punches. That's all I can say about that.
Like, even Floyd Mayweather is looking at that going, damn.
Yeah, when they say, work the body, Floyd, work the body, he's going to be looking at Aaron Pico for some tips.
Jesus. We've seen some devastating knockouts over the last year or two at least, and
Aaron Pico has become the body punch knockout. This is, you talked about Boss Rutan in our pre-show. This is like the Boss Rutan liver kick, except it's the Aaron Pico body punch.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Congo and Alea because oh boy. Alea, sorry.
I want to say the commentary made this fight. If you were paying attention to Morrow and Big John, they had just started discussing why Congo wasn't in the heavyweight Grand Prix, and I don't remember if it was John or Morrow that said the following line, but it was like, God bless him, the guy's just not that exciting. And immediately, when he said that, Congo landed the knockout shot.
It's almost like he had an earpiece in or something.
Yeah, it was like he was listening to the commentary and he's like, oh, I'm not exciting? Screw you. Bang. Knockout.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. Thanks. What state am I in again? Right, okay.
Yeah. No, I ate some candy in the form of Fistic Fury.
So Pico wins in 1:10. Congo wins in 2:29.
Bader wins in 15 seconds.
Yeah. Banks and Piccolotti, sorry.
I think Banks was possibly in the fight. I don't know if he was winning the fight, but I think Piccolotti might have been up in the rounds going into the third round, but the difference maker was the fact that, and I never thought I would say this, because, I mean, they're both decent wrestlers, and Carrington Banks is actually a damn good wrestler, but Adam Piccolotti was out wrestling him. And Adam Piccolotti had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder from losing his last 2 fights in a row. And Adam Piccolotti was not only taking him down, he was taking him down, and he was, as you said with John Fitch, he was thinking 2 moves ahead. Everything Piccolotti did was like, are you going to give up your neck? And if you're not going to give up your neck, I'm going to punch you until you do. So he kept working and working and working for it, and with 19 seconds left to go in the 3rd round, he finally got Carrington Banks to open up, and he had already tried a neck crank several times and not been able to get it on, but once he went for this rear naked choke, he had finally worn Carrington Banks down to the point he could sink it in and tap him out, with 19 seconds left.
I mean, I don't think he gave up. It was more just, I'm not going to be able to hang on to the end of this fight.
I don't think he was... He would have been passing out if he hadn't tapped out. It was in deep at that point.
As far as the prelims on Paramount Network's website, we mentioned James Terry. He won a unanimous decision, 30-26 across the board. Did they show the Win White fight?
Yeah, that one, it did air on the prelims.
The reason I ask is Win wins via knockout at 2:32 of the 1st round.
Mm-hmm.
That was the shortest fight on the prelims on Paramount Network's website, and there were a slew of dark matches that, let's see, of the 8 I'm looking at, only 2 went to a decision.
Yeah, that would be J.J. Okanovich versus Hugo Lujan and Holin Hernandez versus Josh San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, you see submission, knockout, TKO, TKO, TKO. I'm kind of curious with the Emil Anderson fight, because Emil wins with a doctor stoppage at 3:01 of the 2nd. So something happened there.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get to see that, so let's move on. Let's move to... You know what? Let's talk about what happened in the UFC 224, the main event there, because that's kind of controversial as well.
Well, we have to talk about the 4th round specifically, because Amanda Nunes was vicious in this fight, as she has been ever since she became the bantamweight champion, but there was only one conceivable round where Pennington was even close to winning. For the rest of the time, she was taking a beating. And by the 4th round, she was already a mess. And then Nunes started throwing some knees and busted her nose up bad. And I mean, so bad that when the end of the round came and she went to her corner, Raquel Pennington said, "I'm done." And it was caught on camera and heard by everybody watching. And her corner man immediately tells her, "No, you're not done. You're going to go back out there." And it's like, dude, what the fuck? Raquel Pennington just told you she can't go out there and fight anymore. Her nose is busted, her face is battered, her will is broken. There is no reason to send her back out there for more punishment. And you are telling a fighter who just told you that she's done to go back out there and keep fighting.
It's kind of sad when we have situations like that. John McCarthy even said, you know, in situations like that where he's seen that, he would actually take he'll take the fall, and he would have stopped the fight if he heard that. And basically, you can't continue. I'm calling the fight, you know, for the safety of the fight.
That's a verbal submission. He's absolutely right. If a fighter says to the referee or in the referee's presence, "I'm done," you have just verbally submitted in the fight.
Yeah. And it was, if you haven't seen the picture, I mean, there's a great picture of the nose kind of wonky, and one of the eyes is starting to swell up pretty bad. And it's like, what is she going to do? I mean, we've seen fighters come back and win a fight when they look like all hope is lost, but no.
Yeah,
just no.
The Robbie Lawler-Rory McDonald fight would probably be the example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying they didn't believe that she didn't still have a puncher's chance. But even if you believe that, even if in your corner you're not giving up on her because you think she's that tough and that she could still land a good punch, you're just ignoring the physical evidence in front of your own eyes of your own fighter having been marred, scarred, and disfigured. It's like, you might think that in your head, but look at the woman, look at the human being standing in front of you. She is not a bag of meat. She is a person. You cannot just throw her to the wolves.
And it doesn't do, well, we shouldn't say that. What we should say is that, the TKO 236 finish for Nunes. Nunes continues her reign as champ. Pennington, she did have a hell of a fight. If she drops anything in the rankings, maybe a spot or two. Maybe. But
I mean, it's valiant of her to have gone back out there, but it was also foolhardy on the part of everybody involved, because all she did was take another 2.5 minutes of a beating that she didn't need to.
And she's tough as nails.
I'm never going to say that Rocky isn't tough. She's one tough son of a gun. She's tougher than me. I'm not saying anything about her heart or her toughness. I'm saying her own corner was not listening to their fighter.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think if it was a commission, if it was in the States, do you think this fight would have been called?
I don't know. I think...
Because you have those commission officers there who, stand guard, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, they stand guard at every show. Even the Bellator show I went to in Chicago, there were commission people standing cage side the entire night.
Yeah,
But they're there just to ensure that the rules are followed. And I don't think it's against the rules for a fighter to tell a corner, I'm done, and for them to say, you're not. Because that can be viewed as back and forth banter, though I don't agree with that sentiment. They could be like trying to pep talk their fighter, like, you got more in you, you got heart, you got toughness, you got moxie, kid. But
moxie.
It just doesn't look good when the camera is right there looking at a fighter with a face that's like a Pablo Picasso painting. The nose is on one side, the eye is on the other side, everything's out of place, and she says, I'm done, and they say, go back out there. That just, from a moral, humane standpoint, it just feels wrong. Whether it's against the rules or not, it just feels wrong.
Well, let's move on to Jacare Souza and Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah, a very, 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 very close fight, which Gastelum eked out a split decision in. Do you agree with that?
I do, because I picked him at MMADraws.com.
I think you were the only one who did. I believe I went 4 out of 5. This was the only one I botched.
I think I went 3 and 2 because I also picked Belfort. We'll get there. I mean, this is a fight where, looking back, it's the proverbial fight these guys 10 times, it's 5-5. It just happened to be Kelvin's day. Could have easily been Jacare's. Kelvin's saying, he should get the next title shot. I don't really agree with that, but the argument could be made.
I mean,
if it was a dominant win, yes. This wasn't dominant.
Let's just say, based on their respective rankings and the fact that he won, he's in the discussion.
Yes, absolutely.
But to have moved from beyond in the discussion to unquestioned, he would have needed to dominate the fight or finish him.
Imagine if he knocked out Jacare in Brazil.
He would need police protection to get home.
Yeah, pretty much. Start the chopper. Get to the chopper. Let's see.
We have to talk about Mackenzie Dern missing weight by 7 pounds before we talk about the next fight.
I know. 1 pound, 2 pounds, okay, maybe 3 pounds, but 7? The commission said, if she weighed like 1 or 2 pounds more, if she was in a different weight class, the fight would have been scrapped.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the category of, well, duh. If
you know what else is in the category of, well, duh?
What's that?
This is the last time. Mackenzie Dern is not a strawweight. She is a flyweight. From now on, she should fight at 125. No exceptions.
Well, there's a story about that. She's headed to the UFC's Performance Institute to basically work on her weight cutting. I don't know if that means she stays at strawweight. I think you're right. I think she does go to flyweight, but I don't never say never. I think you're right. I think the flyweight is the smartest decision, but 7 pounds, that's just disrespectful.
Yeah. Well, she did get fined 30% of her purse for it. 20% went to Cooper, 10% went to the Brazilian Athletic Commission. So she was punished, but in turn, she punished Amanda Cooper by landing a hard, clean shot that dropped her. And then, with a multi-time world champion gold medalist jiu-jitsu practitioner like Dern, if you get to the ground with an opponent, whether you rock them or not, you're in trouble. And Amanda Cooper was in big trouble because she was already rocked, and then Dern went for the rear naked choke, and there was no way she wasn't going to get it.
See, I made a mistake. I'm not saying a rookie mistake, but I went with my heart here. I thought Cooper would have basically beat Dern so bad she was hoping she was in flyweight. I just felt that with the 7 pound, I felt that with this fight being such a mismatch as far as weight is concerned with the catch weight, I thought Dern would have lost. I went with Cooper, but I mean, to see this fight end in the first round, she's a talented fighter, don't get me wrong. And I was looking forward to this fight just on its merits alone, but I don't know if the 7 pound advantage came into play, really.
I think the fight would have ended the same way even if they had both made the weight, but I do agree with it being disrespectful. I do agree with it being an unfair advantage. I wouldn't change the result either way, but I would say it raises a lot of questions because this is not Dern's first time. We used to say the same thing about Kelvin Gastelum back in the day, and he did eventually get it under control, and he's making the weight for his middleweight fights, and that's all good now. But at one point, it was like, when somebody fails so many times, you start to question whether they're in the right weight class or not. And with Dern, I think we've got that question firmly established here that she's not.
You know who I was going to reference in this?
Who?
Rumble.
Well, yeah. But once Rumble got out of, middleweight and up to light heavyweight, he was finally in the right weight class.
Yeah, absolutely. But it took a long, long time for that to happen.
Yeah, the guy used to try to cut to welterweight. He was fucking insane.
It'd be like GSP going to 150. Oh, wait, we talked about that last week. Never mind.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about John Lineker and Brian Kelleher, because, yeah.
We tough as nails fighters. Damn, these two guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good.
It was rock'em sock'em.
I liked it, and, it did go the third round, which is good, but Kellner finally got caught and got knocked out.
All I can say is, even though they were both super tough, only one of these guys is named Hands of Stone, as the Brazilian weigh-in announcer said.
Yeah, well, it's
Look,
it's a great win for Lineker. He's a bantamweight,
and he could put you out. I'm saying, you got caught with a punch by John Lineker, you'd be on your ass.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not doubting that at all. I just don't know from a bantamweight perspective, because I can't remember the last time I was a bantamweight, what grade of school I was in. But
fourth, fifth?
I don't know.
You were probably 6 foot even back then.
I was middle school. I was probably about close to 6 feet and about a buck. I don't know. I was skinny back in high school or middle school. I would say, I was close to 6 foot and probably about $170 maybe.
Would you believe
Maybe
that at one
$180?
point in my life I was 6'140"?
Yeah, right.
I was. You should see. Look at the high school yearbooks. You'll be amazed.
Oh dear God, that's where dreams go to die. No, I'm good, thanks. Lineker here with the bantamweight win. Tough as nails fighter, like we always know he is. I don't know what you do with him. I mean, there's a few opportunities there.
That's starting to become your cliche, Peter. Boy, I don't know what you do with him.
No, because in this case, you don't know what fight it makes the most sense. Because with him, you can go A, B, or C. I want to see all three fights. I don't know what I want first.
Well, let me see if I know what your A, B, and C are. I'm just gonna look at the list here. Because above him, currently, and the rankings have not updated yet, as far as I know, you've got Marlon Moraes, which I think would be a hell of a fight. And you've also got Rafael Assunção, which I think would be a hell of a fight. And if you could get him out of the commentary booth, Dominic Cruz would be a hell of a fight.
Yes. Who's ranked just one below him?
One below him is John Dodson. They've crossed paths before, I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say, yeah, that fight sounds familiar, but I remember it being good.
Let me see how long ago that was. That was Lineker versus Dodson in Portland, Oregon in 2016. Dodson won that by split decision.
Yeah, it was a good fight. I would say Cruz, but get that W against Dodson. Go get that rematch. I mean, if you can get Cruz out of the booth, absolutely.
What do you mean, get that W? He already got the W. He beat Dodson.
Okay, so they fought twice then?
No, just the once.
Oh, I thought you said Dodson beat him by a split decision.
No, I said Lineker won by split decision.
Sorry, I misheard you. Okay. Yeah, I think Cruz and Moraes. I'm gonna say Cruz, just because I'd like to see that fight and maybe shut Cruz up a little bit. I don't know.
Well, speaking of shut up.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a segue here. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still tasting the foot that he got hit in the face with.
Tell me how my foot tastes.
He was loopy after that fight too, because he cut the same promo twice. He was trying to say he retired, and then he tried to say it again.
Was it like one of those rap songs where they yell remix or rewind?
Yeah, I think Vitor, he might have known he was in Brazil, but that's all he knew.
Yeah, it's a shame because you kind of I wanted to see a different outcome here. I thought Belfort might have proven more of a challenge, and in that second round, that knockout was just spectacular.
I believe if this wasn't said on commentary, it was said on another podcast I listened to, but it's such an awesome quote, I'm going to use it. Lyoto Machida lulls you to sleep, and then he puts you to sleep. That was this fight. In the first round, nothing of significance happened on either side, and in the second round, he just killed him with a front kick to the face.
Well, I'm just trying to debate what
Belfort's done. There's nothing to debate here.
Yeah. I just don't know with Belfort, what was he expecting? I mean,
I don't know, because he's been shot for a while now. This is not news.
But it's not the first time that Belfort...
This just in. Vitor Belfort, suddenly unable to compete at the highest level of mixed martial arts. No, we have known this.
That's not what I'm saying.
This goes all the way back to May 14th of 2016 when he got beaten by, guess who? Jacare Souza.
What I'm saying is, if you don't prepare for a head kick knockout by Machida, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that is like the signature move. It's any kick that Lyoto Machida can put anywhere on your head is going to make you have a bad day. But especially the front kick to the face, that is like your worst nightmare come to life. That is one that you never want to encounter, because that will make you regret your life, and it will leave you probably missing several, if not most, of your teeth.
Can you imagine if he goes out for the second and the coach at the last second goes, "Hey, Vitor, watch the head kicks." Like, it's Machida. Of course he's going to kick your head off.
Did you get deja vu of the Couture-Machida fight watching this?
A little bit, not going to lie.
Yeah, so did I.
All right, well, let's move on. We have a lot of the stuff we have to talk about here on the prelims.
A lot of finishes. Cesar
you haven't
Montage
seen...
got an arm triangle choke. Alexei Oleinik got an Ezekiel choke. Davi Ramos got a rear naked choke. And Elizeu Zalescu dos Santos got a KO from a spinning wheel kick.
Love it. Ezekiel choke I like, but the wheel kick was... Damn, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Another doctor stoppage, this time in the prelims on Fight Pass with Alves and Aliev. Aliev, sorry. Hermanson beat Tells ladies, TKO. Ladies has to retire. Come on. It's getting ridiculous now.
Yeah, at this point, it's like Vitor Belfort. It's like, come on, man. Just make the right call here. That's like 5 of your last 7 fights you've not looked good in.
Ameev and Perez round out the prelim winners on Fight Pass. Quickly, we touch on the news before we talk about this weekend's UFC show. Machida got $50,000 bonus for that knockout win.
Yep,
we talked about
Gastelum and Souza got the fight of the night. They deserve it.
Yep.
And Alexei Oleinik got a performance bonus.
I'll save that story for at the end. Nick Newell is he's going to be part of the Dana White Contender Series.
Right.
So keep an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm.
Machida versus Bisping. What are the odds on that?
No. Bisping's done. Bisping is as much done as Belfort is done at this point.
Aaron Pico wants to do the MMA boxing at the same time gimmick. I guess that's going to be the new trend.
Well, he is a Golden Gloves boxer, so that's not exactly shocking.
Olenek wants to fight Verbisho Verdum. I can see it. I don't like it, but I can see it.
You know what? With his performance, he's kind of earned his right to call that shot.
Well, speaking of calling shots, add another fighter to the fighters who want to fight Khabib, Davi Ramos.
Yeah, well, why not?
Jesus, line's over there, taking a number.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this last week, Stevie. I'm going to ask you again this week. Do you think Chick Congo gets the tournament winner?
Yeah, I wouldn't have said so before he got that knockout, but considering his recent track record and the fact that he wasn't in the tournament, it bodes well for him that if he wants the winner of the tournament, how else do I put this? He can say, title fight or cut me.
We said last week that if he wants to be considered for that spot, he has to win his fight by knockout. Guess what? That happened.
That's why I'm saying, now the chips are in his favor if he wants to call their bluff.
Coker's like, oh shit. Okay, you got your shot. Like it'd be one thing if he didn't win by knockout. You could say, well, maybe one more fight to earn that shot. But after that win, I mean, it's almost like an embarrassment of riches because, like, great, I've got the Grand Prix semifinals, the Grand Prix final, and the winner gets Congo. I've got this division pretty much set for a while here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, let's move on. Calgary UFC Fox 30 has a main event. It's Poirier Alvarez.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, in fact.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little far for me to get to Calgary, but, it'd be a good show to watch.
Mm-hmm.
we really just got this word today. It involves Nate Diaz and the misdemeanor battery charge that the police in Sacramento were investigating.
Yeah, from the Combate America show, which, incidentally, I interviewed Anthony the Shark Avila from Team Alpha Male for that card. You can read that interview at MMA Mania.
So, bits and pieces are being revealed. It looks like Nate Diaz slapped one fighter, pushed Clay Guida into a guardrail, and Guida's lip got busted up. Not saying it's as bad as someone in New York, but when fighters attack or when fighters go wild, I mean, what do you want me to say here?
Yeah, there was a beef, that's for certain. And this is actually a long-standing beef. This one, let's see, I believe I was at this show. I'm looking it up.
Was this the one with Jason Mayhem Miller?
No.
We're on TV, guys. We're on TV.
What was the Nate Diaz fight I was at? I swear there was one. Oh, no, that was when he fought Josh the Dentist Neer. His next fight after that was with Clay Guida, which he lost via split decision. So, I was at the Nate Diaz fight with Josh Neer in 2008, and then he lost to Clay Guida the next year in January. Jesus. So, we're talking a 9-year feud.
Well, some feuds never die.
Uh-huh.
I hate to say it, but it's true, and we'll probably get more about it next week, and it's Diaz being Diaz is the best way I could sum it up before we move on. There was something else here I did want to mention. Diaz also said, someone asked him about future opponents, and he said there's nobody interesting right now.
Okay.
Is it no one's interesting, or no one can give you the payday like McGregor did?
I think that's the definition of interesting here, is the number of zeros.
Yeah, it's true. All right, well, let's move on to this weekend's UFC Fight Night, Maia versus Usman.
They're calling it the chance of a lifetime for Kamaru Usman, which it just might be.
Hell of a win if he can beat Maia.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the house money. If house money had a picture, this would be it.
Mm-hmm. And with the role that Usman's been on, I mean, he hasn't lost a fight since 2013, and he's been slowly but steadily working his way ever since the American Top Team season. He's been working his way up to tougher and tougher competition. And, you know, he's at that point now where with, 10 straight wins, he's earned a fight with a guy like Damian Maia. But it's also, it's, like you said, it's the ultimate proving ground for him at this point, because Maia's number 5, Usman's number 7, Maia's a former top contender, Usman wants to be a contender, and Usman's got incredible knockout power, but Maia is incredibly dangerous on the ground, so you could not have a deeper, more decisive split in a style advantage. One guy is absolutely dominant in one style, and one guy is absolutely dominant in the other.
The thing I'm going to say here could be taken the wrong way, but Usman is very close. Like, right now, I think his power is underrated, but I think with a win here, that will change. He's at that cusp of having his power recognized for what it is.
Right. If he could do to Maia what he did to Sergio Moraes, there would be no denying that he's that legit.
And if he's that legit, he should be number 5 or hell, even number 4 in that ranking.
No. I know you would say yes, but I would still say he would have to fight Lawler or Covington to earn that spot. You could not just give him that spot. You can give him 5, but you can't push him above that until he fights one of those guys.
Okay. All right. Well, this card has 3 women's fights on it, which I think is awesome. We got Grasso and Suarez and Macedo and Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think that's great.
Suarez is a prospect, undefeated at 5-0.
But Grasso is...
Yeah, Grasso...
That's not an easy fight.
No, Grasso is like Well, she was pretty much the chosen one up till the point that she lost that decision to Felice Herrig. Everybody thought she was going to be like their top draw for like Hispanic fans. Like she was going to be the Mexican draw. But that Felice Herrig loss kind of derailed her momentum. So if she wants to get it back, she needs to beat Suarez.
But I think that was a really good learning experience for her.
I think
she'll
so
take
too.
more from that loss than that fight, and that's saying something. Because Herring, that was a fight. I'd watch that again.
Absolutely.
Canner and Reyes and Rivera and Canetti. Those are two other fights on the main card that I'm not going to say seal the show, but they have potential too, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It could be good, but I mean, there's some decent fights on here.
Well, here's the problem I have with Cannonier is he looks good until he fights a top-level fighter. Like,
yeah.
He got knocked out by Sean Jordan, he got beaten in a decision by Glover Teixeira, and he got beaten in a decision by Jan Blachowicz. You know, he's good against everybody except the top guys.
Well, Luke and Laprise round out the main card. I do want to mention the prelims briefly because Cummings and Prazeres could be awesome.
Oh yeah, that is a high potential welterweight fight.
Now,
Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja is a pretty good flyweight fight as well.
Pantoja, I need to see more of.
Yeah,
I need to see one or two more of his fights to really get a good impression of him.
Especially since that loss to Dustin Ortiz kind of, speaking of derailing a hype train, that one put the brakes on his momentum, but I think there's still potential there.
Are there any other fights on the prelims you want to mention before we wrap things up?
Henry Briones and Frankie Science, I think that one is a barn burner of a fight for the Fight Pass. You should go out of your way to watch that.
How is that not the main event that will Fight Pass? Why is it stuck in the middle of it?
Why do you ask these questions? My name is not Rich Chow. My name is not. I'm not a matchmaker. Okay. Oh,
jeez. Stevie J's matchmaking course taught at AngryMarks.com. I see some of these fights in the way they're placed on the card. I understand sometimes you have to have a decent fight in the main spot of a prelim to get eyeballs. I just find that both of these fighters being so low on the card should take that as their motivation to really step up their game so when they win their fight, the next fight will be much higher.
Well,
I don't like the placement of this fight this low on the card, I'll be honest.
All I can say is, if you don't like it, get in Sean Shelby's face after a knockout and say, "How do you like me now?"
And not like Diaz, not like that.
Not the slap in the face way, but more like the, "Yeah, I'm the cock of the walk" way.
Yeah. All right, Stevie, what's on tap for Thursday night AMP?
Let's see, New Japan.
Are you all in?
No, I'm not. I'm not going.
That's too bad.
Are you all in?
I can't afford those tickets. You nuts? The scalpers are asking for a mint.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you getting on my case for it? It's like, shit. Sold out in 30 minutes.
Yeah, but you're a lot closer than I am.
Yeah, but it's sold out in 30 fucking minutes, brother.
Yeah, I know. Do you know if it's going to be on iPay-per-view or on DVD later?
They didn't announce that before the tickets went on sale. But I think now that it did sell out, I'd say better than 50-50 chance they will stream it.
That'd be a hell of a show.
I think they've got enough money in the bank now with the money they made on ticket sales that they can stream it.
And for those who haven't heard the main event, apparently Cody Rhodes is fighting for the NWA heavyweight title.
Yes, indeed, against Magnus, Nick Aldis, whatever you want to call him.
If he's the champion, the show happens, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to mention that, we're coming up on the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's almost time for the finals to start. We're still in the midst of the semifinals, and by the time this show airs next week, hopefully we'll have a finals, and maybe we can even get a prediction out of Stevie J.
All right.
Well, for Stevie J, I'm Peter H. Thanks for listening, and as I always say, Never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
Go Jets, go.
This is Jim Cornette, pro wrestling legend and administrator of JimCornette.com and the Jim Cornette Experience. And you are listening to Angry Marks and all these people that are asking me all these questions that I'm answering with forthrightness and honesty.